Hello, everybody. Welcome to the High Quality Fun Podcast. Today we have Jordan on. Jordan and I, we went to the same college, but didn't actually overlap with each other at all. I graduated, and then he joined. We were both in the same fraternity, and just through that, me visiting, I got a chance to meet him. And I don't know, we didn't really hang out much in those visits, but we became friends online, and I've seen a lot of the stuff that Jordan's been doing throughout the years. And I think he's living a pretty high quality life. So I wanted to bring him on and share a little bit about himself and some of the things that he's gone through. Jordan, how are you doing today?
Oh, fantastic. It's a good Wednesday. How are you?
Sounds like you got a nice pump in. You got a nice workout in before coming on here. So hopefully you're feeling good and refreshed.
Wide awake for now.
Hell yeah. So where I wanted to start off with this is we were kind of talking a little bit before the show, and you were telling us about how you got out to Utah. I thought right off the bat that was a pretty good story and very much fit what we're trying to talk about here. So if you can just tell us how you went from Michigan all the way out to Utah and why you moved out there.
Yeah. So I'm from Wisconsin originally, so I'm very family oriented, and I went to Michigan Tech for college. And after college, I was thinking, or my last semester of college, I was thinking I'd move back to Wisconsin and be near my family and be real close to everyone. After when my grandparents passed away, the rest of my family was all in good health. And I was like, you know what? I'm young, I'm single. Now's my chance to move out west and enjoy my time and everything I have to offer here. So applied to a bunch of jobs out west between Colorado, Utah, Oregon, and a couple other states, and got the best offer from Utah. My job that I have is like the center of the state. It's right near a city called Richfield, Utah. So it's like 2.5 hours away from national parks, Moab, and all the ski resorts up near Salt Lake City.
I see the snowboard right in the background. So,
yeah, I forgot about that. It's almost season. I'm excited. It's almost snowboard season. We got snow on the mountains. It's going to be a good year.
When do they normally open out there?
Depends on how much snow we get.
Okay.
Last year, with how much snow we got, they had some people skiing in the end of October, middle to end of October, I should say. So right about now,
right
actually.
now.
Yeah,
we're recording this at the end of October. So if you're listening, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So moved out west here and couldn't be happier. It's absolutely fantastic out here. It's everything I like to do. Snowboarding, hiking, off-roading, a little bit of rock climbing here and there. Obviously, I think I said snowboarding, but yeah, it's just fantastic. Met a lot of cool people out here, done a lot of cool things. If I don't go on an adventure at least once a month, I'm kind of upset with myself because, you know, I live in such a beautiful state now. Why would I not take the opportunity to explore?
Yeah. And did you know anybody out there when you took this job blind? Did you have a place to live? Did you know anybody? That's quite a haul to get from Wisconsin out there. So were you moving out with like a trailer full of all your stuff or what?
So when I first accepted the job offer here, they offered me a chance to, or before I accepted, I should say, they offered me a chance to come out and physically see the place and like take a tour, and kind of get the feel for what I was getting out here for and what to expect. I'll tell you one thing though. I was climbing up a few flights of stairs to kind of explore the plant and whatnot. I was out of breath. It was bad. Like the elevation where my plant is just about 5,700 feet. So we're at a mile high, just where I work and where I live. So me being from the Midwest at like 800 to 1,000 feet, I was tired, but I thought I was in shape. I thought I was good. Anyway, I had one buddy that lives in Ogden, Utah. He's like 3.5 hours north of me now. He's been out here, or he moved out here like a year before me. He graduated this semester before me. So I knew him, but other than that, I didn't know anyone. The only people I interacted with was my my boss and the managers over the phone for the phone interview. And after that, nobody. So moving out here was an absolute nightmare at first. I looked for weeks to try and find a place to live, to rent. Thought about buying a house, couldn't afford a house. I got no money for that right out of college. But I got to the point where it was like 2 weeks away from me supposed to be moving out here. And I was worried I was going to have to rent like a pop-up camper sort of thing to live out of for a couple of weeks until I could find a place to rent or whatever. But luckily I found a cheap apartment to get me into for a little bit. Packed up, 20-foot U-Haul, 24-foot U-Haul, something like that. Towed my Jeep behind it, took my motorcycle with, said goodbye to my parents. My mom cried. I cried. It's sad moving away from the family, but drove out here. Took me like 26 hours to get out here roughly. So that was a long haul, like a 2-day journey for me. Got in on a Friday night, unpacked a bunch of my big stuff or small stuff that I could do by myself. And that buddy that I had, he drove down from Ogden to hang out and help me move like the bigger stuff that I can't do because I didn't know anyone. It was like, hey, can you come help me take my bed frame in or, stuff like that.
Right.
So the day they came down to help me move that big stuff in, like I said, I had a Jeep. I pulled out there on the U-Haul trailer. We took it up on the mountain, the little bit of mountains behind our place, and did a little bit of light wheeling. Thought it was going to be some light wheeling. Went on some obstacles that were a little sketchy for my stock Jeep Grand Cherokee, but I kind of powered through a few of them. And I got to the point where,
and I assume this is just like a college Jeep, something you limped through college. Yeah, nothing souped up with that.
Nothing special.
Money,
Nothing like the Utah wheeling Jeeps and Moab that you see on videos and pictures all the time. Like, no, this is like stock, I don't know, 30-inch tires, or it's not on 40 inches like the big wheelers are. So not clearing any big obstacles. Anyway, we were driving on a trail right behind my house and started overheating my engine. And I was trying to coast downhill. I tried shutting it off, tried to let it cool down for a minute, and it wasn't cooling down. So I tried coasting down the hill to my house with no power steering and minimal brakes on a rocky, rough road. Not my smartest decision. Anyway, so I blew the motor in my Jeep my first day out here. That was a hard time for me. Didn't know anyone, didn't know what was going on. No vehicle other than my motorcycle. So I'm lucky I at least have my motorcycle. But man, that was a rough start to get to work. What was that?
That was gonna be my next question. What'd you do to get to work? But it sounds like you just rode that until you got it fixed.
No. I rode my motorcycle for probably a month or two. Yeah, about a month. I ended up needing a new rear tire. So I got to the point where I was driving my motorcycle so much. I had my first weekend out here, I drove to Elko, Nevada to hang out with some friends that I knew that lived there, which is a 6 to 8 hour drive on my motorcycle. So I put a bunch of miles on. I came home, had to work for a couple of weeks, and then I realized my cords were showing on my rear tire.
Oh God.
So I went up north and started looking at vehicles because I didn't want to repair my Jeep. I thought it would be too expensive to repair it. So I was like, let's go buy a new vehicle. That's a smart option here. Yeah. So I bought a 4Runner instead of fixing my Jeep, which probably would have cost me $3,000 to $5,000 max. Now I'm $50,000 into a brand new vehicle, but hey living the American dream right now.
I love it. Yeah, that sounds like a rocky start to get the hell out there. And oh my God. How you liking it now? That was how many years ago?
That was June of 2021. Yeah, I moved out here in the middle of June. So just over 2 years, almost 2.5 years sort of thing. Haven't looked back. I have absolutely zero regrets moving out here. I'm having the time of my life, whether I'm by myself. I met a lot of cool people through work. A bunch of Michigan Tech people actually live up near Salt Lake and Ogden. So I've hung out with hung out with them quite a bit. So I feel right at home. Met a lot of cool people, like I said, done a lot of cool things. Yeah, it's just a constant adventure for me. If I'm not feeling like a lazy weekend, then I'll be out adventuring, which doesn't happen very often. Most of my weekends are adventures. I don't get lazy. Me being lazy is staying home and having a glass of whiskey. That's about it. I don't. That's not much. That's not very often for me.
I love it. Are a lot of your friends that you met in the area? Are you still driving quite a ways to meet up with them for all this stuff?
The ones that I have here, like in Richfield, they're 10 minutes away from me, so I'm not driving far for them. But a lot of the ones that I knew from Michigan Tech, they're 3 to 3.5 hours away. So I only get to see them once a month, every other month, something like that. So not very often, which is kind of unfortunate, but we've made it to a point where we see each other quite a bit. Like in the winter, I see them almost every single weekend or every other weekend going snowboarding. We spend a lot of time on the mountains in the winter, which is how I got so many miles on my vehicle in just 2 years. But they come down here to hang out every once in a while. We have a trip that we've been doing over the past year. We're going to do our next section of it next weekend, actually, which I'm stoked about to finish. But it's like an 800-mile journey from northern Utah to southern Utah on primarily off-road trails. So,
oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so we're about 650 miles through total, and we're going to do our last 220-ish miles in a week. So,
oh, you just been breaking it up then. You just chunk it out, get as far as you can, and then come back and start right off there.
Yep,
when you're doing that, are you camping out of the vehicles?
Yep, we camp out of our vehicles. In the winter, we've slept in our tents with some heaters or just extra blankets. And then in the summer, I've slept in my hammock 90% of the time because it's just so comfortable to sleep in a hammock.
I have
sleeping out of our vehicles, camping out of our vehicles. We got I built a drawer system for my 4Runner so I can have all my cooking supplies and utensils and then recovery gear. So we have tables, food, stove, everything we need. And it's a riot. It's a good time. That's to say the least. That's what we do.
I guess before we go into that, because I actually want to hear more about that adventure, that trip that you've been making. I have one funny hammock story that still cracks me up. So I bought this double hammock, and over holidays and Christmas, I ended up getting a rain fly and a bug net for it. And it was a double hammock. And I think it was Donald and Rachel's wedding. So Donald and Rachel from college.
Yep.
We didn't want to get a hotel because we're cheap, and we went camping with like Aaron Bickle and I'm trying to remember who camped with us. But anyways, we decided to, instead of doing the tent camping, we did the hammock camping, which is just hilarious because you're in a double hammock, and you know how when you lay in a hammock, how you have to cuddle. You're just like one person.
Yep.
Like we went to the wedding, got plenty drunk, came back and just like collapsed into each other in the hammock. And then in the middle of the night, I had to pee, and you have to unzip the bug net. You have to getting out of a hammock is never an elegant thing. So like I'm still buzzed. I almost pushed my hand off Chelsea's face to get out of the hammock so I could go to the bathroom and then fall back on her. But yeah, that still cracks me up. But hammock camping is awesome. I did it for a bachelor party by myself. Was much more comfortable. I like that.
Like you said, sleeping in a hammock with two people is not comfortable. It's comfortable for a certain amount of time, but then you realize you're on top of each other and there's no room to spread out like sleeping in a tent.
I don't know if it was the alcohol or what, but we synced into one body and we were pretty comfortable for the night.
Yeah, it was probably the alcohol.
Probably. And then I'll talk about this trip in more depth later in the podcast, but we did a truck camping where we did one where we drove to the UP and camped in all like state land, and then we did one where we lived out of the truck and drove across the entire United States for a month. And yeah, just like living out of the vehicle, that is my jam. I love hearing about people that do that.
That was actually one of the things that I liked most about you guys. Like, we talked here and there when I first met you and everything, but then you guys did that like cross country road trip and everything. I was like, that is super cool. That is something I want to do someday. And you guys did that, what, out of the back of your truck or something? You had, didn't you have like a little tent in your truck or something like that?
I went back and forth. Do we get a trailer? Do we get a rooftop tent? Like, what do we decide? And I ultimately decided that I don't love the rooftop tent idea because you're stranded with your vehicle. But we bought this 45-pound tent. It comes in a duffel bag, and it's the length of the truck bed. And you literally just like pick this thing up, drop it, you unzip it, and then 2 wings fold out. You pull it up, and it's set up, and then you stake it. So that's awesome. Got really good at popping that thing up, tearing it down, because almost every night we were, showing up at dark, setting up, enjoying the day, or just like getting right back up to head out. And I see your dog in the background. We had a puppy at the time, and the dog was teething or chewing on everything. So I didn't trust that the dog would be in the back seat, not destroying everything we had. So I took a seat out of my truck, built a stage, put a kennel in it, and then the dog just like sat there, looked all cute while we drove the whole time. It worked out great. The only thing that sucked is when we were in the parks, you can't bring the dogs with you.
Yep.
We went to places like Death Valley, and we're like, okay, well, this dog will die if this AC is not running. So we ran the AC full blast. Thank God my car didn't blow up doing that. It was still a pretty new truck.
How hot was it when you went to Death Valley?
Oh God, I don't even remember. I feel like it was at or over 100. That truck was screaming.
Yeah.
But we had the dog so trained at the start and by the end of that trip to love the truck that we just leave it the AC running, go on like a 10-minute hike, come right back. There's the dog happy as can be. And now when we go camping, so if the dog gets spooked by anything, it almost prefers to sleep in the truck instead of our pop-up or whatever. So yeah, a little bit of tangent. This is definitely not about me. But
that's okay. I like that. I like hearing about it. That was one, like I said, I enjoyed your cross country trip, and hearing about stuff like that just makes me happy. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean that's like when you and I have gone back and forth, because like I said, we didn't get to hang out in college, but it's been around these eye-opening things. Yeah. Yep. Was there anything that stands out about this off-road trail, the 800 miles that you've been doing?
Well, so we started it. I think we started it right before Thanksgiving, or it was in October. No, end of October, beginning of November when we first started it last year. So we first started off, we were going from, it's Bear Lake, Utah, which is like the farthest northeast corner. And then we went down a little farther. We were doing a bunch of snow wheeling. There was like 6 to 8 inches of snow on the ground already. So it was a lot of fun going through the snow. That section, we didn't have any issues. We didn't have, problems getting stuck in the snow. Actually, I lied. I did get stuck in the snow. I listened to one of my buddies, my best friend that lives up in Ogden. And there was this part where it's like you go down a little ditch, and then you have to go back up to get onto the hill on the side. So it's like a 3-4 foot ditch that you have to go down and to climb back up in there. And being in just a 4Runner with a small lift kit on it, it's not like I can flex and go haul ass through this ditch. And I was trying to go at an angle, but I couldn't get up it. And he's like, dude, just go straight forward, go straight at it. So I went straight at it slowly, and I got stuck, and I had to get pulled out because I just lost my whole rear suspension, was just hanging in the air. So other than that, we didn't have any issues with that trail. But right after Thanksgiving, when I got back from Wisconsin, I tried to do the next section with one of my friends. So we had a Razor. We've been doing it with a Razor, my 4Runner, and then my other buddies, a couple vehicles, and no one else could show up. So it was just the Razor and I. And this next section we tried to do, and our tallest point was like just over 10,000 feet. It was bad. There was a lot of snow up there. We fully expected to get into the snow when we were going, but we didn't know how much we were going to get into. And we got into one point that was like 3-4 feet of snow. And I tried leading the way. I couldn't lead the way because I was just plowing snow. And he has better tires that could like dig and grip and everything. So I had him lead the way. There was one section of it where he had to pull me for like 3 miles to try and get through it. It was bad. It was so deep. We're like, all right, we're going to give it until this point in the day. And if we don't make it to this peak, we're turning around and going back down.
Was it going to get any better? Because I feel like,
no.
I feel like that's almost like suicide. Do you have service out there? Like what would you have done if you got stuck? Oh my God. Hike back.
We had zero service. My buddy had a winch on his razor and we had shovels.
Those razors or those side-by-sides are like amazing in the snow. I remember going up north in Michigan, and one of our family friends just like ripped this thing, no issues, parked it, ripped it, and they had like 4 or 5 feet of snow and it didn't even care. So that's impressive, and the fact that it could pull your thing through the snow is impressive in itself.
Yeah, it's actually pretty crazy. We could like not hear. We could smell the belt burning a little bit just with how hard we were working. So the point from where we started to the peak on the mountain was, I think, 30 miles, and we made it 10 miles.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was rough. But yeah, we got to a point, it was like 4 feet of snow. I kept getting my recovery strap out and was, pulling myself out, pulling him out. We were both working back and forth. I was like on his side by side on a hill, pushing against it to like rock it back and forth to help him dig through this path. So we were on this section. We had a hill on this side that I was like pushing against him to rock him back and forth. And then it was like a drop off here down the cliff. So it was a little stupid and it was a lot of fun. It was my favorite trip, my favorite section of this trip so far, just because of the snow, the stupidity, the sheer joy that we had snow wheeling. And he's the type of guy that I hang out with a lot because him and I are very similar with the shenanigans we get into, to say the least. So
I have to imagine that points to that you were cussing yourself out, but looking back, it was absolutely the best part.
Absolutely. We both thought about it. It's like, this is the stupidest thing we could have done. We talked about it for like the week beforehand. It's like, should we just wait until spring? Should we even try it? Is it worth it? Like, we know we're going to get into snow and we know we're most likely going to get stuck. Is it even worth it? And I was like, dude, that's part of the adventure. If we get stuck, we'll winch through it. We'll turn around. We'll go back down. We'll bypass it. I planned a couple of routes to bypass it if we had to. No problem. But yeah, we were definitely cussing each other out for a little bit, just like, whose idea was this sort of thing? But
you're gonna have any snow portions on this following weekend?
We're hoping so. So there's one section down by Moab that we're gonna do, and the highest point on that is 10,200 feet, I believe. So we're gonna go up on the peak of the mountain there. I don't know if there's gonna be snow because I was down in Kanab last weekend. And Kanab was 80 degrees on Saturday, which is hot still for October. So Moab is roughly around the same temperature, but we're going to be getting into a section that's farther south, up in the mountains. And I think the highest point of that is 10,700 feet roughly. So between the two of those sections, I'm really hoping, like, fingers crossed, that we get into snow. I don't know if it's going to happen.
Anything you learned from your previous jaunt that you're bringing or changing for this jaunt?
So one thing I did is I got a better recovery strap. That's a kinetic one. So instead of like a solid 2-inch flat toe strap where it just jerks you, it's a kinetic rope where it stretches a little bit and then pulls, so it doesn't just like bang your head back and forth and around. The other thing is my buddy with the razor he's going to get brand new tires. So, or he said he was going to. I don't know if he's going to, but he said he was going to put new tires on it that have better traction. So we'll see. But then other than that is shovels, We have another friend coming, at least one other friend coming. So if we do get stuck or, need to do recoveries or whatever, we'll pull each other out and help out. But with it being the end of October, beginning of November, I don't think we're going to run into so deep of snow that we're going to have issues because, like I said, the first section we did was the end of October, beginning of November last year. And then the second section where we had all those issues was November after Thanksgiving. So a whole month basically to accumulate 3 feet of snow. So we should be good. I'm crossing my fingers that we'll make it through just fine, but worst case scenario, we'll power through the pain.
I love it. And then you had to this was a whole weekend, right? So you had to camp through some of this. Did you have to camp in that snow?
No. Actually, so the first night we drove up there, and we didn't get there till kind of late, and we just slept in the vehicles that night because it was 0 degrees outside. And for Utah, 0 degrees, it's not like Midwest 0 degrees, how you have the wind chill. So it's not as bad. But for where we were located, it was cold. Like we basically slept with our cars running most of the night.
Okay.
To keep the heat going. But then the second night where we took a bypass from that snowy route and then came down a different section, we got down closer to like the desert, more of a desert area. So I think it was probably 40, 50 degrees out at night. We slept in our tents, so no issue with that at all. The first night was cold, but the second night was just fine. So
since for the listeners, he mentioned Michigan Tech a couple times. That's where we both went to college. And there was our fraternity always did these camp outs. So in the spring, fall, winter, whatever, we'd all meet up at a location, have a big bonfire in the middle of the woods, and just hang out. Sometimes we'd shoot shotguns. I don't know, gorgeous Upper Peninsula, Michigan. There was a handful of us who had snowmobiles up there. And at one point we went to, I don't remember the location, but we all snowmobiled or drove to this location, and we get there and there's these mounds of snow everywhere. And we're like, what? This is weird. And we found out they're all igloos. You walk around and there's a hole in the side of each one. And we had no idea what happened, but we assumed that one of the adventure clubs went out there the weekend before and spent all day building these igloos. And there they were. They were standing. You jump on them. They're totally secure. And there was a big one that had a pillar in the middle. And me, Aaron, and my brother, we brought stuff to camp because we always did. We figured it wouldn't happen because it's winter. But we ran into these igloos and we said, you know what? Screw it. Let's try camping out in these things. And it was actually really comfortable. You get in there, you get a little bit of body heat, and we slept fine through the night. I slept in my full snowmobile gear. My idiot brother, he's like, it's warm. And he stripped down to his underwear and then woke up, sure enough, in the middle of the night, freezing his ass off. But yeah, us talking about tech and the freaking snow, that made me think of that.
That's pretty sweet. I've always wondered what it'd be like to sleep in an igloo, because from what I've heard or seen or whatever, it's like the snow basically is a good insulator. And obviously you're saying like your body heat kept you warm. It probably got down to below freezing temperatures and you were still mostly comfortable the whole time, right?
I was fine. I was in my full, except for Lance, yeah. But that's just hilarious. Yeah, I was comfortable. It was a little like uncomfortable being on the snow or like the rocky snow or whatever, but yeah, that was a neat experience.
That's an experience that you'll never forget too. That's pretty cool.
I bring that up all the time, and we didn't even have to do the hard work of building
it.
but that does make me want to build an igloo. Like that's where my mind goes.
Hey, you have 2 kids, don't you?
Yeah.
Your igloo time is coming soon.
We'll put them to work.
No. You're working. They can't do all the work.
I got to do it for them. They're 2 young girls, so I have to treat them like ladies. Well, that's cool. I will be reaching out when you finish that trip. That's a cool one. Doing like, what'd you say, 800 miles?
Yep.
Is it literally the tip of Utah to the south of Utah?
Yeah, it's just about. So this is actually, there's a big trail section, or trail, what do you call it? There's a lot of connections. So it's called the Backcountry Discovery Route. It was originally created by like the adventure bikes or enduro bikes or whatever you want to call them, where they're traveling around on a dirt bike that can be on
Okay.
street or off road, but then they have like the saddlebags and the luggage and everything. So these trails were originally created by them. They have them through Oregon, Idaho, Washington, like basically all the Western states. They have a trail through almost every single one of them, which is actually pretty cool. So I found out about this at some point last year. I think randomly through social media, I scrolled across it and I was like, oh, this is cool. I want to get some guys to do it. And then, we're about to do our last section next week, but we're actually planning on doing the one through Oregon next year. So we're going to take 10 days of vacation and do the whole trail through Oregon. We're going to run up the coast and camp on the coast and maybe do some fishing or surfing or hiking or something like that. But yeah, so me finding this trail system through random social media is leading us to a whole nother adventure a year away from now. And I think that's really cool. I have some friends that I didn't even think would be interested in doing it with me, but I was like, hey, this is what I'm going to do this year. Do you want to join me? They said yes. And now they're wanting to do more. So I was like, this is cool. So
that's awesome. Yeah. The things that I'm hoping to learn through this podcast are like that. I had no idea that existed, but now it's something that I want to do. Like, that sounds awesome. Well, cool. Yeah. Good luck. I hope you don't get stuck.
Well, I hope I get a little stuck. There's a little bit of fun in getting stuck. I'll be honest. Yeah. It adds to the adventure. I make the YouTube videos of our trips, and if I don't get stuck, it's not as fun. It adds a little part to it.
Low quality video. I saw that you did something recently, or maybe it was last year, I don't know, on social media where what do they call it? We call it Tarzan swinging, where you jumped off the cliff through a crater. I don't even know. Can you explain where that came about and what made you decide to do that?
Yeah, so it's called the Moab Rope Swing is the company that runs it. You can literally just Google Moab Rope Swing and their name will pop up. Like, I don't even remember how I found it. I think it was through a random Instagram reel or picture that I found. And I was like, holy crap, this is cool. I'm doing this. This is badass. So I reached out to one of the guys. Actually, it wasn't even the company that did it at the time. It was just a random friend of the company that did it. And I was like, hey, what do I got to do to, sign up for this or who do I reach out to try and schedule something? And he led me to them. So I tried inviting a couple of my friends to come out there and do it with me. But so this rope swing, they've had it in a different location in the past, but the last year when I did it, it was, I think 30-40 minutes west of Moab. It's really cool. They have a lot of redundancies for it, so it's like very safe and secure. Like, they walk you through all the safety things, but it is like a 200 to 300 foot rope swing that you're jumping off a cliff and trusting this rope and this harness to hold you as you're jumping and falling. And it is if you've ever gone skydiving, it's a very, very similar feeling to skydiving. Like, you get to a point where you're free falling, and then all of a sudden the rope it'll catch you and it'll pull you. And it's not even like a jerky. Well, it's not even like a jerky moment where it'll like catch you and flip you or something if you do it right. So the first time I did it, I jumped twice. So the first time I jumped, they're like, yeah, Jordan, just jump like 3 to 5 feet off the edge of the cliff, and you'll be good. And most people that they run into, they're more nervous to jump off the cliff than excited. So they have to like put a hand behind your back and guide you as you're running or walking off there to make sure you actually jump. Because if you don't jump, you're potentially going to hit the cliff right behind you as you're going down. So it's a safety thing for why they do it. But But anyway, so the first time I did it, I was super stoked. I was adrenaline rush. I was having a great morning. I was so excited, so amped up. And they're like, yeah, just jump like 3 to 5 feet off. And I got a little too excited. And I think I jumped, somewhere between like 8 to 10 feet off. I just took a running jump and jumped, or running start and jumped. And I just jumped straight off, like ran and jumped. And I got to the point where, the rope was catching, and it flipped me upside down and it pinched my nuts in between the rope and the harness. And that was extremely painful. But like the whole time you're free falling, it's just exhilarating. It is absolutely amazing. And I would recommend it to anyone. If you can skydive, if you have any sort of like adrenaline factor, even if you don't have an adrenaline factor and you want to experience something new, this is one of the easiest ways to do it, because they explain the safety, they explain how everything works, they watch you and help you as you're like getting in your harness and clipped in and everything. And the free fall feeling is just so cool. And then if you do it correctly, not like me and get excited and jump too far, if you listen to them,
it kind of crests down.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's like a pendulum. How a pendulum swings, it's just so smooth and gradual that it just like rocks you back and forth. I was hooting and hollering the whole time I was down there.
It's because your nuts were getting pinched.
Yeah, well, that was after the fact.
I've actually gone skydiving, and it was for my buddy's 18th birthday, and I told him I have to go first because I don't like free fall. And I swear to God, I blacked out when the guy started strapping himself to me. And then when I came to, he was counting down and we're hanging out the window. Like my brain just went to autopilot, and then I was like, oh, we're falling now. And
so were you awake or before you blacked out? Like, you remember the plane ride up there, or did you black out like on the plane ride before they opened the door?
I remember everything until he started grabbing me and holding me up. And I remember doing it, but like my brain was in autopilot. I don't know. Like, oh, we're going. And it was cool. Chelsea's also been skydiving on a different occasion. I think she'd do it again. I would struggle to do it again. But we also went to Costa Rica, and they did this thing called the Tarzan swing. And it's similar to that, where you have 2 points and you swing on a pendulum. But what they do is they drop you below a bridge, and they have a pin, and they literally just pull this pin, and then that's like when you disconnect and fall.
Oh, so you don't have like your own say in it. It's whenever they want to.
Yeah. I was lame. I walked to the top and looked, and I was like, no. And it was that. It was because I had no say in it, and I can't imagine just sitting there like waiting. Wait, I don't like the demon drop. I do not like that, or not the demon drop, the power tower at Cedar Point where they drop you.
That's actually what I was just gonna bring up. It's like going to the amusement or the amusement parks or whatever, where you go on this, but you have no idea when they're gonna drop you, and that's part of it. That's the thrill,
Oh man, I don't know. I have a video of her doing it because I went down and watched, and oh my God, just like blood curdling screams. And she's trying to run the whole time.
You'll have to send me this video later, or share it at some point. I really want to see this now. I don't think I've seen that.
She's tougher than me in that regard. So props to her.
I think the first time I went skydiving, I went here in Utah actually with my best friend and a couple other people, and so I was the first person to jump out. It was like a small Cessna, so you can fit 5 people in there total. The pilot,
it was the same one.
And 2 tandem jumpers, and and that's it. So as soon as the guy opens up the door, I look back at my buddy, and you could see it in the video that I got. And I was like, "It's like we're doing this. This is happening." And then as we were falling, like it's such a cool feeling. Like it is. If you've never experienced free falling, I would recommend it, because obviously there's risks involved, but the free falling experience is something you don't get very often. Like it's a whole different experience. And free falling from the rope swing, to be caught so smoothly like that, that's even more reassuring. Like you're not going anywhere. You're good.
Yeah. I'm sure you went to Canyon Falls all the time to cliff jump in college, and
Oh yeah.
I would say like the difference between cliff jumping and skydiving was when you skydive, you have like those first 10 seconds of 5 seconds of panic where you're just like your body's trying to adjust to what's happening. And then once it adjusts, it's just like your body accepted what's happening, you can absorb it. And then the next thing you know, the pendulum catches you, or you pull the parachute, and then it's just like bliss. Then you're just gliding to the bottom. Whereas with cliff jumping, by the time you're experiencing that, you're already touching the water, and that's like fun in its own regard. I don't know. Cliff jumping, I love the thrill of that, but the Tarzan swing, that was a little too much for me.
So I got two things based off of that. So one, how many times have you gone skydiving? Just the once?
Just once, yeah.
Okay. So I'll be honest, the second time is way easier and way better than the first time, because you already have that feeling, you know what to expect, like the free fall, the panic is gone. Like, well, I guess for me, maybe you with like your free fall feeling, you'd still be a little panicked, but like the second time I did it, so that same weekend we did the rope swing. I had 3 other friends that came out to visit and do the rope swing with me. So we did skydiving right after it. So the next day. And so we went from the rope swing to skydiving, but you go from a rope swing where you get caught to skydiving. It's still that same free fall feeling, but you already kind of have that feeling of what to expect. Like the second time, if you went skydiving next weekend, you would have a feeling for what it's like already. So it'd be a little bit uneasy, but a little bit more reassuring. Be like, all right, I got this. This is a piece of cake now. You know what I mean?
I'd probably be wearing my daughter's pull-ups, just
your brown pants that day.
Yeah.
Okay,
I could probably do it again, but it'd be something. That's
great to drag you to do it.
As long as I go first, and as long as I don't have to watch her jump out that window and get like a moment of like, I'm free. Oh wait, I'm going after her. No, I'm kidding. She's gone. No, I'm kidding.
Nice.
Yeah, if I went first, then I'd probably be fine.
Gotcha.
But no, that's cool. I that video of you doing that Tarzan swing is wicked.
It was awesome. So the second thing I had for it was the second time I jumped, like I already knew what to expect and I knew not to jump, 8 feet out there. But the second time I was like, can I like dive off of it, or can we do flips, or like what are our limitations? Like, you don't have limitations. Like, if you're comfortable doing it, do whatever you want. I was like, okay. I didn't know how to comfortably do a flip off of it with a rope hanging onto me. I was worried that the rope would get like tangled up on my leg or an arm or something. And then when it, I wasn't going to flip. So I just like swan dived off of it. And it basically was the same feeling as skydiving. So that's what I was getting into, like that whole free falling. The second time I did it, where I just like swan dive off of there, I was like, it's so graceful, so peaceful. It was amazing. And then I got to the bottom and it would just like catch me and slowly roll me over and just rocking back. Oh, it was amazing. It is so cool. I'll be honest, it's a little pricey to do it, but for how many people they have go to do it and the expense of the ropes and the gear that they have, like it's totally understandable the price that it is. But yeah, it is 100% worth it. It is such a good time. So when you and Chelsea and the kids come out to visit in Utah, we'll take a trip to Moab and go do the rope swing.
All right. Okay. I'll scream like a girl. Oh man.
I'll at least get Chelsea to do it. We'll do it. We'll do it once, and then you'll walk. Well, no, that's different though. It's the same thing as skydiving. You have to go first. That's what you're saying, right? You got to go first.
If I can control it, I think I'll be fine.
We'll see.
What else you got from your move out to Utah? I think you wanted to tell me about this one hike you did.
Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it.
You said you drove like 10 hours to go to.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, that was just this year, of course. Mount Whitney. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That is one of my biggest accomplishments in life. By far one of the. I can't really say by far one of the coolest things. I think I've done a lot of cool things in my life that I'm very proud of, but So I had two friends that are very good mountaineers and backcountry skiers and snowboarders, and they do a lot of mountaineering where they're going up on the mountain with ropes and crampons and ice axes and everything. They got this idea to go hike Mount Whitney, and one
It's
of
in
my guys,
California, right?
yep, it's in California. It's like the southeastern side of California,
I
roughly.
just pulled up the map. It looks like it's just west of Las Vegas.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's like 3-4 hours west of Vegas.
Okay.
Something along those lines. I can't remember. Yeah. So my friends asked if we wanted to go hike Mount Whitney, and I said, absolutely. I've never hiked a 14er before, and I've always wanted to do it. Why not start off at the tallest one in the contiguous 48? Like,
Oh my God.
trial by fire. Here we go. Yeah, so we packed up my 4Runner. We had 5 people in my car and all our gear. We put a Thule on top and a hitch rack in the back. All gear for 5 people, and then a couple of things for the guys that were flying in. No, 4 people. 4 people in my car. That's what it was. 4 people in my car. Anyway, so we drove from Richfield to the base of Mount Whitney, which is a 10-hour drive, and we made dinner, repacked our stuff, made sure we were good to go, went to sleep, got about 4 hours of sleep. So we woke up at 12:30 in the morning, and because we wanted to get an early start. The one guy that's done it before had a really rough time of doing it. So he's like, we should start sooner rather than later, so we're not hiking at night the following day and having like a complete exhausted time. So we started hiking at 1 a.m. When I go on hikes like this, I like to do oatmeal for breakfast because it's it's super simple, it's easy, tastes good, and it's good calories and some protein, all that good stuff for hiking. And I wanted to try and poop before going hiking. I couldn't poop, couldn't get it out. I just wasn't ready yet, apparently. And so we started hiking. About 30-40 minutes into the hike, I had to poop, and I just had to hold it the whole time. Anyway, so I held that poop in for 16 hours, which was not a fun time. I didn't want to poop on the mountain in the little bags that they gave you, because then I'd have to carry the little poop bag in my backpack for the rest of the trip.
Like a dog.
What?
Like a dog.
Yeah, exactly. I was not in the mood to do that. So anyway, we hiked, started at 1 o'clock in the morning. We got to a certain point and turned around, and we looked, and the sunrise was just amazing. It was one of the coolest sunrises I've ever seen in my life. We had all the mountains surrounding us that we were climbing on, and then the flat land, and then you could just see the sun coming up over the horizon. And we obviously took a bunch of pictures and videos, and it's just a gorgeous way to start the morning. You can't go wrong with that. And we kept going a little further, and we realized one of my buddies forgot his snacks or his food for the trail or the hike.
Oh my gosh.
So we were on the mountain for 16 hours, and he didn't bring any food. So we basically all split up ours and shared it with him throughout the day. Luckily, most of us packed a little extra because we're, better safe than sorry sort of people. We want to make sure we have enough rather than, run out and be miserable. So he left it back in the bear, what is that called? The bear shelter food cabinet thing. Anyway, so we were hiking, and one of the guys kind of got off trail a little bit, and he thought, looking at his all trails, that he was following the right path, and he was not on the right path. So he didn't put his crampons yet. None of us put crampons yet because we should have, but it wasn't as bad as we expected. We thought we'd be fine. But we didn't put any crampons yet. Crampons are like,
I was going to ask, what's a crampon?
I realized by the look in your face, I could kind of tell. And I was like, oh, I should explain this. Cause I didn't know what crampons were until a couple months before this trip when I bought them. But so they're basically like spikes that go on the bottom of your feet. So you strap into your shoes, or you're obviously wearing boots. You strap them over your feet and then wrap around your heel. And then they're just like spikes that hang down off your feet. So when you're walking on deep snow or icy terrain or something along those lines, you'll keep your traction, because you only get so much traction on icy ground if you're just wearing boots. So, hey, chill. So instead of like losing your traction, you're going to put crampons on that have like 1 to 2 inch spikes on them that'll keep you grounded. Anyway, he didn't put his crampons on, went up this path, which was not the right path, ended up sliding down like 50 to 100 feet and tore up his whole back because it was like early in the morning still before it got hot and softening the snow and everything. So it was like the icy, sharp, kind of rough type of snow, and it just ate up his back. So we had to continue for the rest of the day, and like we tried to take care of it a little bit, and it wasn't to the point where it was like gushing blood or anything like that, but it was still one of the things that we had to keep an eye on. But yeah, so we kept going and we got to the base of the summit. So the last section of Mount Whitney, there's a lake. There was frozen over for us because there was all the snow, but there's a lake at the base of the summit. So the last like 2,000 feet is like a, I don't know, 30, 40 degree angle or something along those lines. So it's super steep. It took us 4 hours to do just the last 2,000 feet. I can't remember how much elevation we gained before that, but it took us from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. to get to this point, which is 3/4 of the hike. And then the last quarter of it to the peak was 4 hours long just for that. So it was like I was taking 5 steps forward. I'd have to stop for 30 seconds to a minute to catch my breath. Because what were we at? We were at like 12,500 feet or just under 13,000 feet when we started, sort of thing. So we're already
it was all hell too. And you just said it was like that steep. I don't know.
Roughly. And so it's like 5 steps forward, take a breather, 5 steps forward, take a breather. And it was exhausting. It was brutal. Like that, I was doing fantastic up until I got to that point. Like I spent 2 months on the Stairmaster before this just trip to try and prep for it. Like
was there anybody that was like clearly underprepared?
No, actually,
everyone trained really good for it.
Yeah. We had 2 guys. So both guys were named Dan. Both Dans are from the Midwest, but one of the Dans is one of the guys that does like all the mountaineering all the time, and he's really good at it. So he's always in shape for ultra running or ultra marathons, mountaineering, backcountry skiing, stuff like that. And then the other Dan is a good rock climber, hiker, stuff like that. But being from a low elevation without doing any sort of mountain like that, I was pretty surprised by how well he was doing. But both Dans were leading the pack the whole time, which was incredible. I was so proud of him. Yeah. So proud of Dan. But yeah, so we got to the top, the last section before we had to cross over a sketchy traverse. So we had to cross a traverse that was like, I'll say roughly that steep, and it was all snow down this way. So either you could hike up a piece that was straight similar to this with your crampons and ice axe, and it's straight up to the peak basically, or you take this traverse along the edge of that steep section. And only the one Dan that does all the mountaineering, who was the only one who wanted to go up that. The rest of us did this traverse, and for 4 of us that have never done mountaineering before, we were all pretty nervous about it, and we're like super slow going because we didn't want to fall because there's a steep drop off and then rocky, awful terrain at the bottom of it. So if we fell, if we couldn't save ourselves with our ice axes, we would have fallen off a cliff basically, which is insane. Yeah, so we made it across the traverse just fine. It was just like a slow 1 step at a time, like take a step, put your ice axe in, take a step, put your ice axe in, like cautious moving the whole time. Made it up to the peak, and my God, it was amazing. I cannot tell you how amazing it is, other than the fact that like I wanted to spend more time up there than we did. We probably sat there for half hour, ate our lunch or snacks, had a Red Bull, and it was just beautiful seeing snow-covered peaks, 360 degrees, being the tallest point in, like I said, the contiguous 48, the lower 48. It was breathtaking. Like, I wanted to spend more time up there and absorb the view and just be at peace and enjoy everything that we had to offer. That is like the biggest accomplishment I've ever done. It is super cool getting to the top peak, and anyway, but we decided to head back down. Obviously we had,
You probably had to, so you could, make it before sundown.
Yep. We were actually worried about a weather window. So there was supposed to be a snowstorm coming in. So we were a little cautious. It was supposed to come in like an hour or two after we got to the peaks. So like we should make it down we should make it down the sketchy part before the storm rolls in. Luckily, we did not have a single snow or rain issue at all during that trip. But I think my favorite, other than the views that we saw at the top, my favorite part was like on our way down through that steep section, and then most of the way down the rest of it. Two of the guys brought skis and a snowboard, so they snowboarded down it, and so they were down.
They hiked all that with a ski and snowboard.
Yep. So right before that sketchy traverse, they took their snowboard and skis off, and just set them aside, because the rest of it was like rocky. You couldn't snowboard down it anyway. But yeah, they carried their skis and boots and snowboards up that whole way. And that's one of those things.
I've hiked a backcountry ridge in Colorado, and like I know how out of breath I was in my full snow gear carrying snowboard boots and a snowboard. I can't imagine doing that hike carrying all that crap. That's bonkers.
Exactly. So they got, so the tallest peak on, or Mount Whitney, the tallest point is like 14,500 feet roughly. So they probably dropped it off at 13,900 or 14,000 feet or something. So they didn't have to carry it the final section, but yeah, they carried it all the way from our campsite to the top, almost to the top. But yeah, they got to snowboard and ski. It was all worth it. They got to snowboard and ski down. They were down to our meeting point in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. And for the four of us that didn't bring them, my second favorite part, other than the views, was we just sat on our butts or glissaded down, and we just, rode straight down the steep spot, and then the rest of the snow. It was so much fun. It was exhilarating just being able to slide down a mountain on our butts. Like that was cool to be 14,000 feet in the air, and then all of a sudden we're at 12,000 feet in less than 30 minutes when it took us.
Like a little saucer, like a little kid saucer, something that would have been nothing to carry.
That would have been nice. That would have been smart, because I was wearing, what was I wearing? Sweatpants. I didn't have like nice pants to go hiking in, so I was in shorts and sweatpants. I don't like wearing pants very often. I told you that earlier. Is like in Michigan, I would wear my shorts and sweatshirt in the middle of winter.
He's not wearing pants right now in this video, by the way.
Oh shoot. But yeah, so my pants were a little wet afterwards. But for the 4-hour hike it took us to get to that, from that steep spot, it took us 20-30 minutes to get down it, just by sitting on our butts and sliding down the whole thing. And it was super cool to be able to do that. And that was one of my favorite parts. I made a YouTube video out of it, and that was one of my favorite parts of it. Is like, I just held my GoPro right out in front of me, and then the four of us did like a train as we were all sliding down it. And yeah, it was cool. The whole experience was amazing. I don't know if I'd ever hike Mount Whitney again, because if it didn't have snow on it, it would have made it a lot worse with some of the rocky terrain that Mount Whitney has to offer. But by far the hardest I've ever worked for, other than a college degree, that's a whole different type of hardworking, but the hardest I've ever worked for a hike to accomplish something in my life. Absolutely amazing views at the top. Like, the reward was so worth it. Like, we talk about pain and pleasure all the time, and that pain was absolutely worth the experience I had. We all got down to the bottom after a long day of hiking. I had a beer, one beer. All it took was one beer, and I was instantly intoxicated. I was like, all right, guys, I'm ready for bed. Let's go to bed. then I think we all slept for probably 10 hours. Like none of us woke up before 8 or 9 a.m. the next day. But yeah, when the next day we we woke up and there's a stream that runs down right alongside Mount Whitney, which is just the cold water running off of the snow, and took a nice ice bath in the morning and kind of rejuvenated the sore legs and feet and ankles and everything else. But man, that is a trip of a lifetime that I will never forget. Like I said, the hardest I've ever worked for something in my life, and best memories I've ever had. Just super cool experience.
I love it. Do you have any I guess other mountains that you're planning on climbing now that you've done that one?
Yeah, I was gonna go over to Colorado for the 4th of July this past year and do there's three peaks that you can do like in a row. They're basically like right next to each other. You climb up one and then you can kind of traverse the ridge line to get over there. So I was going to do those, and some other things came up and I just couldn't do it. But I want to do the Maroon Bells in Colorado for sure. That is one of the coolest places I think I've seen. And then Capitol Peak, which is what some people say is like the hardest one in Colorado. But it's on the list for next year, but there's a lot of trips I have to do next year. So I don't know if it's going to make the cut or not. So we'll see. That one's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, man. It sounds like you're just like jockeying trips against each other. That's a great spot to be in. Enjoy it. Enjoy it while you're single. And I don't know if you're single. Enjoy it while you don't have kids.
Single, don't have, well, I have a dog, so it's kind of hard sometimes to do things with him, but he enjoys most of the adventures we go on, like the off-roading. It's very entertaining for him because he runs alongside for parts of it too. So, but yeah, no, I'm gonna enjoy all of it as long as I can while I don't have a girlfriend, a spouse, or kids. So it's nice.
Kids. No, the kids unlock a whole nother level of high quality adventures, high quality fun.
Yeah. However, like you said, you got kids, that's a whole different level. Now you got hiking short distances with your kids, and eventually it'll become the long distances. And maybe someday your kids will take you on a big hike. You might not want to take them on a big hike, but they might be taking you on a big hike.
Taking their old man.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, awesome, man. I think this is a great spot to end it. I loved this. I know you've been talking about all the videos you've been making. I've been following you on Instagram, just kind of checking out everything you've been doing. Do you want to go ahead and tell the audience about yourself and where they can find you if they're interested?
Yeah. So I have my main Instagram page that I post like all my personal adventures and adventures with friends and just some random stuff. Jordan.s.vc. Jordan Van Kelster is my name. I also made a page for my Forerunner because I take a lot of adventures with that, and I've been modifying it as I go throughout the adventures. Hopefully, maybe someday I can work with companies to grow it even further and, maybe make some money off of it. Who knows? So that's naughty _ T Forerunner because my car is nautical blue. So, but I also make YouTube videos. The main reason I started making YouTube videos was so like pictures don't do anything justice. You can only see so much from pictures. So I was like, I take a bunch of videos of stuff that I'm doing, but I don't really post all the videos. So I started doing YouTube videos so I can share it with mainly just my family. And now I'm, eventually kind of picking up with other people, random subscribers, random people that'll see it. So if you want to look me up on YouTube, I post a bunch of videos of the adventures I do, the off-road stuff, the hiking. My parents came out here for a week and I took a video of every single national park that we did and then the other 2 or 3 places we've gone to. So yeah, just a whole bunch of stuff.
Awesome. And we'll include all those links in the the description that we add to this. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I had a great time. I hope you did too.
It was great. It was great talking to you. I haven't talked to you in a while other than random messages back and forth. So it's good actually having a conversation about adventures and life and everything.
Hell yeah. All right. We'll catch you later.